Okay, next one is number 4. The function f is defined by f of x, and we should know what that looks like. It's a semicircle. Find f prime of x. This should not be difficult for us. So f prime of x, we are going to be using power rule, 1 less, and don't forget your chain rule. And it will be important to, since you are given the restrictions on x, make sure you list your restrictions. Now remember, you can't find derivatives at endpoint, so we're not including those, okay, with our answer. Part B, write an equation for the tangent line to the graph of f at x equals -3. So you need 2 things. You need slope, which comes from evaluating your derivative at -3. So our slope is 3/4, and we need to know our point. So you just plug in f of -3 here, which gives us 4. So point slope, y minus 4 equals 3/4 times x plus 3. If we solve this for y, you could distribute and simplify, but that should be good enough there. C, now it's a little bit different. They're changing up the problem. So they're just saying let g of x equal f of x only for -5 to -3. And then it's going to equal something else for the rest of the problem. And it's asking, is g continuous at x equals -3? Use the definition of continuity to explain your answer. So remember those 3 things that we need to prove a function is continuous at a point. You have to show that the function value exists. You have to show that the limit exists. And then those 2 values must be equal for it to be continuous. Okay, so step 1, to show that it's continuous, we will evaluate g of -3, and we're going to plug that into this one here because that's where it's included. So at -3 we already got that it equals 4. Next we need to show the limit. Now this is a piecewise function, right? So if you're looking at your graph or drawing a graph, it's going to look like a semicircle, and then from there you're going to have a line with a y-intercept of 7, slope of 1, okay? So what we have to do is show that the limit from the left equals the limit from the right, and therefore the limit exists, okay? So that's what we'll do in this part. We need to find the limit as x approaches -3 from the left of g of x, and that's this function height from the left, which we already know is 4. Then we got to do it from the right. So the limit as x approaches -3 from the right of g of x. Now we're looking at the value of the function of the line, which is x plus 7. So that's -3 plus 7, which equals 4. So since the limit from the left equals the limit from the right, the limit as x approaches -3 of g of x equals 4. Okay, so now the important part here is that this value and this value are equal, and since they are, it is continuous at -3. Okay, so since g of -3 equals the limit as x approaches -3, we know it's continuous. Okay? So since g of -3 equals our limit as x approaches -3 of g of x, then g of x is continuous at x equals -3. Okay, and then part D, that's just asking for the value of that integral, and that should not be difficult, so I will move it down here and put it here. Not too much thought into this one. 0 to 5 of x square root of 25 minus x squared dx. And don't you dare try to separate that into two different integrals with a product, because you know we can't do that. So our only option here is u substitution. So we're going to let u equal 25 minus x squared du dx equals -2x. And if we solve this for dx, okay, and when we go to plug back in, our x's cancel, and you have to change your bounds. So when x equals 0, your lower bound is 25. When x equals 5, our upper bound is 0. So we do want to make that going, since right now it's going larger bound to smaller, we can take out a negative and change that to go from 0 to 25. I'm also going to take out that -1/2. So this actually becomes a positive 1/2 in front, okay? And then all you have here is u to the 1/2 left inside du. So we will use our power up rule. U to the 3/2 divided by 3/2 is the same thing as multiplying by 2/3. And we're evaluating that 0 to 25. So we'll get 2/3. 25 to the 3/2 minus 0. Remember, 25 to the 3/2, do your square root first, which is 5. 5 cubed is 125. And that is just going to equal 125 thirds. And there is question 4.